Hey everyone. So today I'm back with you to make another instrument. Now this is an instrument that doesn't really have a name, not like the ocean drum or the maracas we already made. It has a type, and the type of instrument we're going to make today is called a membranophone. And a membranophone is any instrument that makes sound by vibrating a membrane or something stretched over a surface. Most of the time when we play a membranophone, we're playing a drum because a drum has a stretched skin of some sort over like a cylinder, and you vibrate it by hitting it. In this case, we're going to be vibrating the membrane by blowing into an instrument. So this is a wind instrument, but it's a type of membranophone. But like I said, it really doesn't have a name. The membranophone is just the kind, but not the name. Because this is just kind of a fun science experiment kind of one. So for this one, you're going to need a bottle of some sort. This is an empty Diet Pepsi bottle. If you have a water bottle, pop bottle, anything like that. And then you're going to want to cut part off. Some of the people I've seen do this will make it a little bit shorter. I kept it a little bit longer. It's up to you. But I've seen some people make them more like that length. That's fine. Okay. As long as you have kind of a fairly flat surface here on this cutoff part. Now, for the cutting part, please have a parent do it. I don't want anybody hurting themselves. So have your parent cut the bottom part of the bottle off. Keep this part. You don't need the lid. Okay? And you're going to need a membrane. So for me, the membrane I'm using is a balloon. You can also use like a latex glove or a nitrile glove, like a disposable one. Okay? Something that you can cut, but you need something stretchy that can be stretched over a surface like that. Okay? So I don't have any disposable gloves here, so I'm using balloons. You only need one. I have just a couple here to show you some different ways to cut it. But you're going to need a rubber band, one or two. I'm fine with one. You're going to need a straw if you can, or you can make it work with rolled up paper, construction paper, not computer like copy paper, but like a thick paper. But keep in mind your mouth's going to be on it, so it should be something that is not going to squish away as soon as your mouth goes on it. And then in this case, I also have a piece of construction paper. So you can do this with construction paper, straw, or both. And I'm going to show you exactly how. So I could actually make it with 2 straws or 2 of these or 1 of each. I'm going to do 1 of each. Okay. And then you might want some tape. Okay. It doesn't have to be big like this. This is just what I have. So to start, like I said, you need your bottle cut off here. Please have a parent do it. Okay. And then from this top edge right here, this is going to be the top. So the opening where you would drink your drink out of is actually now going to be the bottom. Okay, so this is going to be the top. From the edge, if you have a hole punch, that would make this the easiest. You can take your hole punch and as far down as you can go punch a hole. I couldn't find my hole punch in my house, so I just used a pair of scissors and I poked a hole, or a knife or something, and I poked a hole. Again, for that, if you're doing that, please have an adult do it. Don't do it yourself. Okay, I don't want anybody getting hurt. So I just had a knife, and so it really doesn't matter how far down it goes as long as there's room. It's got to be a little ways down from this to make sure there's room to put the membrane on top, but otherwise it doesn't much matter. So I poked a hole right here. I know it's hard to see, but I poked my hole right here, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my membrane, my disposable glove or my balloon, and I'm going to need to cut it. Now, I already cut mine because my scissors are not very good, so it takes me a little while to cut, and I have to find other scissors. So you can cut off, so here's your standard balloon. You can cut off this bottom part if you want. Okay, don't do it just yet. Let's watch how I do this first. And then you stretch it out. So that's going to be your membrane right there. So I would take this. I got to anchor it here. Okay. Take it and you're going to stretch it over the top of there. Now, I was not a huge fan. Oops. It's going to be like that. I was not a huge fan of this because it does that little nub kind of on the end sticks up, and I don't like that. I want it to be flat. If you are fine with that, that's fine. As long as it is at the end product, when you're done, it makes the right sound, it's fine. I didn't like that. So what I did instead, I took another balloon, and I actually cut it like this. Okay, so I cut it, I took the opening and I cut straight through to half, like you might say hot dog style. Okay, and then I just kind of open it up. So now my surface is like this, and I put my membrane. You have to stretch it a bit. It doesn't have to be super stretched out, but it does need to be pretty flat. Okay, and so I stretched it out so that it would be kind of flat here, and I can fix this little part here. But I'm going to take my rubber band to hold it on, make sure it stays on really well. Okay, and then if it's not very flat, I can kind of pull down from the sides and flatten it out a little bit more. Now you see it's a little flat. Okay, I could cut this off or not, it really doesn't matter. So there's my membrane. That's the part that's going to vibrate to make sound. Okay. Now, the next part you need is, this is where my either a straw or a piece of construction paper comes in. I'm using this piece of construction paper. You want it kind of long. It's a little bit longer than the straw, but it's not super important how long it is, as long as it can go in. We're going to be putting it in there, and it can go in, touch the membrane, but still have some sticking out. That's how long it needs to be. So if you only have straws and they're a little bit shorter, like if I put this straw in, there's some sticking out, but if you want more, you can certainly shorten the bottle too. So remember I said you could cut around, it doesn't need to be quite this long. Okay. But if you don't have straw, that's fine. You're going to take your construction paper. You're going to roll it pretty tight. Try to get it small. Okay. Roll it up as tight as you can. I gotta try that again. It slipped out. All right, so I roll it up like this, pretty tight. It just needs to be small enough that if I put it in here, it'll go in. It's got to touch. It doesn't need to push out, but it needs to be touching, firmly touching that end. And then I'm going to let it go, and it's going to expand a little bit, and that's fine. That's what I want, because this needs to be closed. It can't let air out from this crack. Now, you can tape this in place if you want. I have played around with this some, and I've tried taping it in place, and I've tried not taping it in place. The concern with taping it in place is that if this slips too far, if I tape it in place and it kind of slips away from that membrane, I have to make sure I can get it back up against there, because it has to be on here to make the sound. So for right now, I'm not going to tape it, but if you wanted to tape it on, you could. Okay, and then your hole. This is where you need to have your hole. My hole's not very pretty looking, but it works. So I'm going to take my straw, or again, if you were to use some kind of small tube like this, something that you can blow air through is what you need. Okay, and I'm going to put it in that hole. Now, if it kind of goes off to the side, or if it goes kind of straight into the thing, that's fine, as long as you have a way to get air into the bottle here. Okay, now for that, I am going to tape a little bit, because I want to make sure that the air is not escaping around the edges of that straw. So I'm going to put a little bit of tape. This does not have to be a pretty instrument. If you want it to be a pretty instrument, go for it. Do the best you can, but mine's not pretty, and that's okay. I'm more interested right now in the sound that it makes. Okay, so I'm just going to tape this in place just to make sure none of the air gets out of that opening. Okay, now let's see if it works. So it's kind of funny looking. Okay, this is my membranophone. So let's see if I can make a sound with it. That's the sound it's going to make. So please don't drive your parents too nuts with it, and don't chase the cats or the dogs around the house with it. Okay, and so the way that this is making sound, some people might say, well, doesn't the sound just come out of the tube? So the reason this has to touch right here is because once you blow the air into the bottle, there's nowhere for it to escape except through the tube. But if the tube is touching the membrane, that's closed off. So what it does is the air actually pushes the membrane up so that it can get into the tube. And as it pushes that membrane up and into the tube, it vibrates that membrane. And I can change a little bit by sliding this around. The other way that I have not really perfected, because I'm new at this instrument also, is you can take some scissors, you can flatten this a little bit, and you're going to cut kind of a triangle, and you can do a few of them if you want. But there's a little triangle that comes out to a diamond once I unflatten it. And you can use that as a hole. Let's see if it works. So a little bit, it changes the sound. Now, the more that you put in here, the more that you'll be able to change the sound. So I'm going to try and put a couple more and see if it does anything. Again, I'm very new to this instrument, just like you guys. So I'm putting 3 in. We're going to see how it works. Okay, so mine didn't work super well, but I think that's something I can work on. But it'd also be different if you do a straw. Now, you can use a straw in here. If you do that, you are going to have to tape it closed. Just make sure, remember, you can slide it a little bit to make sure it stays on that membrane. Okay? And then you could also cut little pieces in here. Practice a little bit because I'm not very good at it. I only just did it a few times. So if you practice it, you might get a better hang of it. The other thing you can do, if you only have straws and you don't want to tape, you can flip it around, your bottle around. You can cut the top, so you can cut the drinking part of the bottle off. And then you can, and that way it's flat like here, cover that side with your membrane. And then in the bottom, instead of putting it through this opening, you'll just have to cut a hole, but you can control the size of the hole better that way. So that is our Membranophone. Make them. If you make one, please take a picture or go onto my Power School, and you can go on to Flipgrid to take a video. That's right through my Power School, okay? Or if you can take a video at home and send it to me, I would love to see and hear your Membranophones. I'm curious to know if they sound different between different sizes of bottles. So please try them out. Send them to me. If you want to make them beautiful, pretty, please do it. Paint them, put markers or stickers or whatever. I want to see what you can come up with. Have fun.